it gets really dark with Islam, bro, because like your original Qurans, you're supposed to have 7 of them, 6 of them are gone. You'll never find them again. You have many qira'ats based off one aruf, one mode, and Muhammad ordained none of this. So imagine if Paul, right, the Apostle Paul, he decided 20 years after Jesus' death, all these Bibles that you have, Jesus, I'm going to burn all of them and create my own Pauline Bible. We'd get cooked as Christians. Go for it, bro. We're not here to, be mean. If you have any question, I'll debate. Atheists, Muslims, whoever, bro. We're here to share Jesus. Like, no denomination, a born-again believer. Like, do you mean, like, are you Protestant, Catholic, Orthodox, born-again believer? I don't believe that Jesus started denominations. The Greek word for church is ekklesia, which means called out ones. That's what it is to be part of the body of Christ, right? It has nothing to do with a physical church. Although we should go to a church, if you're a born-again believer, you are now part of the body of Christ, just as much as I am.
So you believe in the Trinity, or?
Yeah, are you a Muslim?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, nice. We can chat about it if you want, bro. You be as cutthroat as you want. I'm pretty tired, but I'll hold up as the best I can.
I was just asking, I have like 15 minutes.
Yeah, we chat, bro. That's fine. So you're a Muslim then? Okay, good. You ask me any question on Christianity, I'm not going to be offended. You push as hard as you want. Because I know a good amount on Islam, so I'm going to push back, okay?
I'm not like completely educated. I just want to let you know.
That's okay. Neither am I, bro. I'm not an expert.
Well, you obviously have like experience and stuff, like catching people. And...
Well, yeah, but it's not to get like got you, bro. It's to share like, well, this is why I believe what I believe, right? To share Jesus, yeah. So, from your perspective, though, as a Muslim, like, why wouldn't you be a Christian? Would you say, like, what's keeping you Muslim opposed to Christian?
Main reason is because you don't have the Bible from the time of Christ.
And which one would that be? Like, what do you mean? Which Bible?
Like the earliest manuscripts you have of the Bible, like a few hundred years after the birth of Christ.
Yeah. The Codex Sinaiticus, Alexandrinus, Ephraim. Is that like that's the deterrent, like why it's not true? Because I could flip that.
That's the main reason.
Okay, got you, man. So let me put it this way, okay? The Gospels, man, were written within the first century, all of it. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. The first one was Mark. That was written about 40 years after Jesus' death. The last book of the Bible, Revelation, was written around 90 AD. So it was all written in the first century. As far as complete manuscripts, yes, those come centuries later. But the reason for that is because the Roman Empire, the first 300 years, persecuted Christians. If you were caught with a complete manuscript, you'd be killed in the worst way possible. I could flip that though, right? Because I don't view whether something comes out early or not as in, oh, it's true or not. Because with the Hadiths, with Muhammad, right, those the same thing came 200-300 years after his death. So, I mean, this idea of like I wouldn't say Islam's false just because the Hadiths of him, his sayings and doings came 200 to 300 years later. It's the same thing with the Bible, right?
But the difference is with the Hadith, you have a whole full chain of narration of each person, and you have information about all their belongings, how truthful they were, who their family members were, and their full autobiographies. With the Bible, you have no idea who was Mark, Matthew, Luke, John, besides what it says in the Bible. Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing with us, right? So you guys have chain of transmission, but it's the same thing with our early church fathers. Our early church fathers go all the way back to the disciples. So with John the Apostle, we have Polycarp. He's one of, who else? Polycarp, Athanasius. It's the exact same thing. These individuals are able to confirm them. I can explain who Matthew, Mark, Luke, John are. Every early church father we have, you don't take my word, search this up, all attributed the Gospels to Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. The reason they're anonymous, right? Because a lot of Muslims will say, they're anonymous. Bart Ehrman says this. The reason they're like that is just because no one would, like, back then, bro, no one would really date their things, so they wouldn't say, hey guys, by the way, this is Matthew who wrote it. But every early church father would acknowledge that, the Gospel of Matthew to Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. But you're right, they didn't date themselves as far as like, hi guys, this was written by Luke. Why? I couldn't tell you, bro. I think it was more of an oral tradition, so they kind of like understood. But you're right, yeah, they didn't date it.
Yeah, but then you can't say with 100% certainty that this is what Jesus portrayed as his religion. Sure. Because it's not even in the original language of Jesus. It's in Greek as opposed to Aramaic.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jesus spoke Greek too.
But it's still not in like the original thing.
Well, so it was written in Koine Greek. Jesus spoke Aramaic, Greek, and Hebrew, right? He spoke Hebrew. Well, we know he spoke Aramaic. He spoke Hebrew because he was teaching the Old Testament, and he spoke Greek because the common language was Koine Greek, the lingua franca. So anytime he was speaking to the Roman guards or soldiers, he'd be speaking Greek. I like this though, but you're a smart guy. I can tell you definitely put in a little bit of thought. Let me ask you this then, okay? Do you believe then that Jesus had a separate Injil, a separate gospel than Matthew, Mark, Luke, John? Like Allah sent down a different revelation? Or do you believe the Injil was Matthew, Mark, Luke, John?
I believe that parts of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, John is from the Injil, but it's not complete. Like some parts have been changed, lost through translation, or some parts have been added or missing just over time.
So you do believe then, you don't believe Jesus had a separate Injil? His Injil or gospel was parts?
I believe Jesus had a revelation sent down to
Okay.
him known as the Injil.
Okay.
And then over time, as it was translated to different languages and different people went through it, it was changed over time. That's why you don't have multiple. Yeah, that's why you have different types of Bibles, right? You don't have one singular Bible.
Well, the reason we have different Bibles, you mean like different translations of Bibles? Yes, we have different translations of Bibles. This just makes it easier to read, right? We do pull from slightly different manuscripts. We have Codex Sinaiticus, we got Textus Receptus with New King James or NIV. But the thing is, bro, is that all manuscripts that we have, 60,000 plus, all point back to the death, life, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. So that's unchanged. Now, are there some small differences maybe in maybe numerical marks in the Old Testament? There could be some copyist errors, but to us, we don't claim that the Bible's been dot for dot, letter for letter preserved, right? It was written by man, and through, and even with the Quran, right, through any historical document, inevitably there's going to be some level of discrepancy.
Personally, for me, I find that problematic because if it's not word for word, the words that were sent down from the Father to Jesus, then it becomes problematic because you're not 100% sure if this is what really Jesus wanted you to follow. Like compared to the Quran, if you look in Birmingham, they have a copy of the Quran that's been carbon dated to the life of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, 1400 years ago.
Sorta. The Birmingham Quran is about, what is it, it's about a chapter and a half. It's not a Quran.
No, it's the full.
No, it's not. I promise you can look at it. It's about one chapter, maybe two. I think it's like 60 verses.
It's the full.
You can Google it, bro. I've searched this up. And the problem with the Birmingham Quran too is half the carbon datation is before the time of Muhammad. Meaning, that's a very bad thing. Meaning, the Quran could have just been fabricated. So I wouldn't go by that. But to answer your question back then, because we're kind of going back and forth. The Quran is the exact same standard, man. It's you know, the Quran Muhammad had is not what you guys have. That was burnt, that was lost. The original was given to Hafsa, his wife, that's gone. Uthman burned 6 out of the 7 Qurans, the Arufs.
There's a reason for that, though. He did that because all the companions of the Prophet were spread out all over the place, and so the same thing that started happening with the Bible happened with the Quran. So he brought all the companions together, compiled the actual Quran that was recited from Muhammad to the companions, and burned all the copies that had issues with them. So we only have the copy that was relayed from God to the agent Gabriel to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, to his companions, and now to us.
So we got to be on the same page then. So at Prophet Muhammad, there were 7 modes, 7 aruf, right? 7 ways of reciting the Quran. Now, what happened later on is, really there's supposed to be those 7 modes today, right? And we know this because his companions, Ibn Masud and Ibn Qab, had different versions of the Quran, right? I can give you the Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, where they would listen to each other during prayer, and they would drag me to Muhammad and be like, why is he reciting Al-Fatiha different, or whatever it is. So then what happened, bro, is you're right. Here's the red flag, though. Muhammad didn't ordain this. Muhammad died, and 20 years later, Uthman then came and decided on his own volition, you know what, let's burn 6 of them. Let's go grab every single mode that they have, standardize it into our version, and burn the rest. That's a huge red flag because Muhammad never said that was okay.
So my response to that is, I think you're confusing 2 things. One thing is the 7 different ways of reciting the Quran. There are different ways of reciting it. They were all translated from the Prophet ﷺ to Muslims, and he said that they're all okay with translating both of them. When the companions went, because they were reciting in 2 different ways, he said that both of them are all right. What Usman did is, when there were different versions of the Quran, not ways of reciting, but there's different versions where there was differences in between them.
But why were there differences? It was because of the modes.
No, it was differences because if you have a book over time, it gets spread out between a lot of people. There's going to be changes that happen between it, just as happened with the Bible, right? Mm-hmm. That's why he burned the versions that were not 100% authentic and kept the ones that were.
Well, so the thing is, bro, is there's no hadith or surah that says that the reason Uthman burnt the Qurans is because people were writing their own versions. What we do know is that there were 7 modes, and each of these modes were given to different tribes, and they began to fight each other. So the idea that people were writing it, that's why he burnt it's not true. He burnt it because they were just different modes. Why were there different modes? I couldn't tell you why, bro.
What do you mean by modes?
Yeah, so there's Aruf and there's Kirat. I'm not talking about Kirat. Kirat comes way later. Muhammad didn't ordain Kirat either, bro. So you got Hafs, Warsh, Duri, Khalaf. That's nowhere in the Quran or the Hadith are even supposed to have that. That was because man took that one Aruf that Uthman standardized and then wrote it with their own ways, right? Surah 1:4, one says Maliki, one says Maliki, one is king, one's owner.
That's just different ways of reciting that come from the Prophet.
No, Muhammad never said that. You got to show me where Muhammad said have different Kirats. Muhammad didn't even say burn the 6 Arufs.
He didn't say, because that was obviously after his death.
Yeah, so that's not a good thing, no? Imagine if Paul did that.
if you have a bunch of false books and you have one book, obviously you're going to burn the
Who's
false
to say they're
books.
false though? Muhammad didn't say they're false. Like,
Because there aren't the books that were transmitted from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
what do you say it again?
So the Prophet transmitted the Quran.
You had 7 modes, yes, given from Allah to Muhammad. Yeah, 7 modes. Yeah.
Ways of pronouncing.
Well, they're called different modes. We don't really know what they are, to be honest, bro. For all we know, it could be a different language. Like the Hadith don't tell us they're different ways of reciting. They don't say they're dialects. That's what your imams tell you. Those are qirats. You're thinking of qirats, bro. Arufs are modes. That's all we know. I can show you the Hadith of Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. We know they're different because his companions were reading it differently.
I need to research it more.
That's okay. You're a smart dude, bro. But I study this. But you're a smart guy.
Obviously, yeah.
But to answer the question, it gets really dark with Islam, bro, because like your original Qurans, you're supposed to have 7 of them. 6 of them are gone. You'll never find them again. You have many qirats based off one aruf, one mode, and Muhammad ordained none of this. So imagine if Paul, right, the Apostle Paul, he decided 20 years after Jesus' death, all these Bibles that you have, Jesus, I'm going to burn all of them and create my own Pauline Bible. We'd get cooked as Christians.
But that's different than what Uthman did. Because
What did he do?
he burned the parts. He burned the ones that weren't authentic.
Who's to say, how can he say what's authentic though?
Because he was the companion of the Prophet.
No. Uthman was the caliphate. Uthman.
But he was also the companion of the Prophet. He was
I hear you're a smart guy. Ibn Masud and Ibn Qab, those were companions. Those were master reciters of the Quran, not Uthman. Ibn Qab, Ibn Masud, those are the ones who knew the Quran. They didn't agree with Uthman burning their Qurans. They said no. Ibn Masud said, hide your Quran.
No, but those
So
are.
Uthman's in no authority to burn them, bro. He knows nothing of the Quran.
But there's a difference between being a master reciter and all the companions of the Prophet. They were around the Prophet. They were continuously listening to the Quran. They all had them memorized.
Well, again, bro, so Muhammad says that he had 4 master reciters. If you were to learn from the Quran, you learn from these 4 guys. 2 of those were Ibn Masud and Ibn Qab. They didn't want Uthman to burn their versions of the Quran.
No, that's master being master
Do you want me to show
reciter.
you on like the hadiths?
Yeah, sure, because I have class in 5 minutes.
Yeah. So you can read this if you want. This is Ibn Masud. You can read that. That's him basically, and you're gonna have to scroll down saying, do not give up your, what do you guys call them? Mashif? Your version of the Quran.
Can I just take a picture of this?
Yeah, do whatever you want, bro. I can send you many more of those. There's another hadith where Muhammad himself says, Ibn Masud and Ibn Qab learned from these guys. And so he didn't want to give up his Quran when Uthman was going around collecting them and burning them. Satan, man, ruining my sleep last night, bro. I'm like I would be way sharper normally. Those first 2 guys kind of threw me off a little bit. I was just like, hey, bro, it's too early for this, bro. I'll talk to you soon, yeah. But you're a smart dude, bro. You're definitely much more of a knowledgeable Muslim, which I like. But there's still much to learn, young Padawan. It gets deep, bro. Yeah, look into it, bro. I really like you, man. Do you have any other questions about the Bible, man? If you don't want, we don't have to talk about the Quran or Islam, but any questions on the Bible, go, bro. Give me your hardest ones.
I can just say like overall like what's stopping me from being.
Yeah. Tell me.
Main thing is-
Before you go, can I tell you why I think? And you asked me if this is true. I think the biggest reason why Muslims do not become Christian is because they were born Muslim. And if you were to leave, even if Christianity was true, you'd be giving up basically everything: your family, all the traditions you've done. So that alone, even if it was true, you wouldn't leave. That's what I
agree with you for a majority of Muslims, but for me personally, I looked into both religions, and I just found that Islam was the right religion. Because I'll tell you the reasons.
Yeah.
Christianity, main thing is I have the problem with the Bible.
But we just went over that with the Quran. If you have a problem with the Bible, you got a problem with the Quran. Way worse.
Second thing is that you believe that Jesus dying was a divine sacrifice.
Was it divine sacrifice?
That's what you believe, right?
Yeah, Jesus willfully gave up his life, yes.
But was it a divine sacrifice?
Was it a divine sacrifice? What do you mean by divine? Like it needed to happen?
Like was it God dying?
It was the flesh dying. God can't die.
Yeah.
The spirit cannot die. So that's why Jesus resurrected, right? But his flesh, just like how you and I take flesh, it died.
When you say resurrected, that means he was dead for a certain point in time and then he came back.
Well, not necessarily. To resurrect just means to go down, to come up. So
Yeah,
he
so-
went down to the underworld. His spirit never died. He went down and then came
But
back
he was
up.
physically dead, right?
His flesh died, yes. And his flesh stayed dead. His flesh didn't resurrect. His flesh did not.
That's what I have a problem with. If he died, then how can he be divine?
Well, because it wasn't God that died, it was his flesh. God can't die.
So then his flesh, you're separating his flesh from God, right?
Yes, yeah. There's the hypostatic union, yeah.
Yeah, so Jesus then, by that logic, he's not God, right?
Say it again?
Jesus isn't God then, right?
How so? Jesus is fully God, fully man, right? So his humanity died. His divinity lived on. That's why his divinity, his spirit rose back.
But if you confine God to a body, then it's not really God, because Jesus needed to go to the washroom, Jesus needed to eat.
His humanity, yeah.
Yeah, then it's not God anymore.
Says who? By what standard? How can we say what God can do this and can't do this?
Because my understanding of God is an omnipotent being. If there's anything about God that's not omnipotent, then by that logic, I don't consider that a God.
So the problem with that, because I agree with you, is that the problem with the Muslim God is that it's actually our God that's so omnipotent, because our God can take on flesh if he wants to. Allah can't do that. So in your sense, Allah is limited. The fact that he can't do that if he wants to.
But it's illogical for God to just become a human. That contradicts.
Yeah. Well, God, even in the Quran, I think this is Surah 42:11, God's unlike his creation. So for us to use our human faculties to try to rationalize of like, okay, can God be in a tree? Where's the Trinity? You're never going to find it. He's unlike our creation.
But doesn't it make more sense to you that Jesus came down as a messenger from God, and then God is separate? Doesn't that make more sense than just separately from like Islam and Christianity? Doesn't that make more sense than Jesus being God?
Not necessarily. I do see that. Like, I can understand from a finite perspective. But again, at the end of the day, bro, I'm not God, right?
Jesus!
Amen. So to answer the question too, a big reason I take on Christianity over Islam is we just got to look at the history, right? You look at secular scholars like Bart Ehrman, who kind of attack Christianity, and he doesn't deny that there was a man, Jesus Christ, who was crucified by Pontius Pilate, and his disciples claimed to have seen a risen Christ. There's much more history pointing towards Jesus dying, crucified, than with Islam. I think it's 7157. It was just made to appear that way. There's no history of Jesus just making it appear that way, right? Like, because you don't believe Jesus was crucified.
Yep.
Yeah, there's very little history to that. So even when I look at it from just like a secular perspective, I would choose Christianity over Islam.
Are you talking about the crucifixion of Jesus?
Yeah.
So what we believe is that God made it appear that Jesus was crucified and that Jesus was lifted up. So according to historians and the people over there, it would look like that Jesus being crucified.
Yeah. Do you know who was crucified though?
That we don't know. That's only.
So, but that's the issue, though, right? Because to say it was made to appear like this, but you have no substitute, you have no clue who he was, what his name was, what he looked like. Where we do have it, we have first-century historians, Tacitus, Josephus, who acknowledged, no, that was Jesus Christ.
I have class in like 5 minutes. I want to talk to you some more. Are you going to be here?
Yeah, I should be here another like 40 minutes or so. You're a really smart guy,
bro. Are you going to be here any other day?
Yeah, I'll probably come every Wednesday. Did I give you the card? Hold this, okay? I'm just going to give you the card. I'll give you the YouTube. Shoot me a DM, bro. I like you, man. You're a smart guy. Okay? All right, bro, come back next Wednesday, okay? Okay, God bless, bro. Hey, what's up, man? I didn't want to come chat. Oh, you don't wait. Okay, you come in, bro.